Hey friends, welcome back to the library. Today I have with me author Alycia. Is it Carosella?
It's Alycia Carosella. Yeah.
Alycia Carosella. Hey, look at that. That's pretty.
Thank you.
So tell us about how you got started into writing, kind of what your motivation was behind it.
I actually have been writing since I was a child, but of course, I just got into like a funk where obviously reading was not cool back in the day. So I was like, all right, I'm not
Yeah.
writing anymore. But I was really into like R.L. Stein, the Goosebumps series. I'm
Mm-hmm.
slowly collect them because I got rid of all of them, unfortunately, but I used to write like little spooky short stories, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to be the next R.L. Stein. And that didn't happen. So I just shelved writing and reading, honestly, until I think COVID. And then I really got back into like, I don't know, I guess romance because I started out with Colleen Hoover and it kind of like drew me in. And then I was like, okay, let's see what's on Bookstagram or Book Talk. And then I didn't realize that reading was like so popular. And I was like, hey, I kind of want to be in this group. So I was like, we're just going to buy all of these. And then I just went kind of crazy and just bought books anytime I could. I still haven't read them all. So that is obviously not favorable with my husband, but I'll get there eventually. And then I was just like, you know what? I think I want to try this. And I did. I mean, I think it was 2022, maybe the end of 21. I started writing and I got to like 50,000 words and it was like a teacher student romance. I had a crush on my English teacher in high school. So I was like, I need to live this fantasy out. And I started to write it. And then after that, I was like, okay, I'm kind of bored. I didn't know what to do once I got to like the middle of the story, so I shelved it and then just wrote a completely different story. And I finished that one in like 3 weeks. And I didn't really know what I was doing, so I didn't really edit it and I wrote it and published it. And it was not the best whatsoever. So I don't know. I mean, that's where I started. And now that like I'm more experienced, I can go back on those like first few pieces and obviously tweak them now that I know more. But yeah, baby writer me was just too excited and just kind of was like, publish, publish, publish. And I was like, no, now it's out there and people are like, do you know how to write? And I was like, maybe, just a little bit, but editing, not
Kinda.
really. I mean,
Kinda.
there was a lot of Google searching. It might have not been right, but I don't know.
Yeah. And I feel like the writing part is, I think that there's like a difference in between writing and editing and what people understand them to be, because like
Yeah.
you actually trying to piece together, because I've talked to a lot of authors over the past couple months since March when I started this, and a lot of them are like, well, you kind of get this outline and you get pieces of the puzzle and then you write it down as you go, and then later it's like trying to put them all together and reformat it so that it's a workable story in the way that you wanted it.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people think editing is just like going back through and actually like finding typos and grammar mistakes and that kind of thing, and it's not necessarily that. Like there are different types of edits, so yes,
Yeah.
you need to do those, like grammatical errors and things, typos, but then there's also like we're looking for, plot line. Are there any plot holes? Like, is there an overall arc to the story? Like if you're in a series, typically there's like this massive overhead like hanging thing that you have to make sure you're feeding as you're making the smaller plot line go through. And so sometimes a lot of holes do end up in there because it was like we were working towards this overall goal over, let's say, 3 books, and
Mm-hmm.
we're feeding that the entire time, but then we forget that two people that we're currently speaking about in this overall trilogy need to end up doing something together or being together, or
Yeah,
so.
especially with a lot of characters, things can get lost. That's why I'm just
Oh
like,
yeah.
I have little like character cards so I don't forget like their hair color, their eyes, and I'm just like, I can't memorize all of that. There's just no way. I think I would forget, or they would just have to have changing colored eyes or something. I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah, editing is not my strong suit at all. I
Yeah.
mean,
And I think it's also one of those like, as a reader, we're consuming so much that the line between traditionally published and indie published kind of gets blurred sometimes when you're picking up a book. Like, you don't necessarily remember if they actually have a deal or not, or you can't tell. Especially
Yeah.
if you're reading ebook form, like, it's hard to tell whether they have a deal or not unless you're digging on the actual page trying to see, like, is it from Red Tower, is it from, Bloom, or is it from the author? And the thing to remember about those is, like, they have entire teams, like teams of people who are going through and rereading this book, 4 and 5 and 6 and 10 and 15 times. Whereas if you're an indie, it's either you yourself are going through it, someone really close to you is going through it, or you've got a team of like maybe 3 or 4 people that have volunteered to go through it for you, and they have to do it on their own time, which, I mean, can be anywhere from maybe a day or two. And if you're me, it's going to be a week or two before I can get it finished, because I've got this, and I've got a 8 to 5 day job, and I've got a husband, and I've got 2 dogs, and I've got, parents I've got to see, siblings I've got to see, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it's just one of those, that's one of the reasons why I'm like, really, I told somebody else this. I was like, obviously, if someone like Rebecca Yaros or, Harley LaRoe or someone wanted to get on the podcast, I would 100% be for it. But at the same time, I'm trying to stick towards my indies who need my help as much as I need their help. Like, that, it's one of those mutual, like, they get a platform to speak, and I'm giving the ability to do that because I dedicate my time to do it.
I definitely think that that's like something that not a lot of people know about too, is just like how to get into indie publishing. So it's nice that like there are a lot more supporters towards us now. I'm not saying that like traditionally published like authors should not be read or anything like that, but it definitely is hard to get into traditional publishing as it is. But like, it's super duper hard, obviously, to get your book out there too, because there's so many other published authors that are either self-published or indie published, or honestly any route. So I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of things that people don't know go into like getting our books out there. So it is nice to be able to tell people. Like, I've had a lot of people reach out and ask how to do it because they want to. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to tell you. I don't gatekeep. Like, I try to do everything as close to free. So a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of free things out there that they could use. So I'm just like, yeah, publish through here. This is free. Oh, this is free too. And they're like, really, really? Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is one of my favorite things is it's starting to be implemented it was implemented in my job not too long ago, but it's starting to be like a wide thing now, is if you're someone who struggles with grammatical errors and spelling and that kind of thing, Grammarly has a free version that helps you with the basis of those things.
That's
now,
what
you can
I
pay to get you can pay to do the higher ones, and it'll help you with like long, dramatic, flowing grammatical errors for that kind of thing and phrasing. But it's just one of those, like, we use it because we send a lot of email communications at my job. So obviously we want to make sure that we don't sound like complete idiots when we're responding to someone. But I have it on my laptop. I have it on my home computer. I have it on my work computer. And so anytime someone's like, I don't do well with these things, I'm like, no problem. It's on my laptop permanently. It's not going anywhere. Just send me the file and we'll go through it. And the best thing about that is, even though Microsoft Word and Google's Docs.
Google Docs, yeah.
Yeah. You have to be very particular when you're writing with those because they might try to claim some things, but both of them also have built-in spelling and pronunciation and grammatical things. So even if you just write, a couple paragraphs and go, okay, is this okay? And then copy and paste and pull it out, that kind of thing. It might be beneficial for you. Yeah. I know somebody who was using Apple Pages, and I was like, this is the hardest platform to write on.
I have never heard of that before.
Like, it's great whenever someone else is using a Mac product and you want to share, because you can share directly to them and you're not having to it goes through their iCloud. So then you can revoke access and you don't have to go through all the settings and everything. But Apple Pages for a long time did not have a convert to PDF or convert to doc. So it was just like you're having to use their form of a doc that doesn't do well on other platforms, like if you're trying to upload into something. And then every time we tried to convert her Apple to a PDF in order to upload it into KDP, the formatting was off.
Yes,
so then we're playing with oh God.
That is such a pain. I did that with Word for a very long time. And then I was like, why are there random blank pages all over my manuscript? I didn't put those in there. And then I finally like converted it to PDF, and that's when they would actually pop up and I could delete them. So I was like, why? I don't understand why this is happening. So now I just use PDF. Thankfully, like, it's easy for me to do it. But if I had a Mac, I don't think I would know how to do anything. My grandmother has one, and I was like, how? How do you use that? I don't know. Maybe I just need to like practice more, because I am not technology like savvy at all. And you kind of need that nowadays. I feel like everything is on there.
Yeah. Well, and most people have children who have been into technology for the longest, and I'm in my we're in our mid-20s. But I still feel like I'm 17, but it's fine.
Same.
I've always been like I learn pretty quickly, quick learner, and I've been somewhat tech savvy just being a kid, growing up in the ages of like internet has just came around right before I was born. So I kind of grew up with it. I've learned like, I was around when I was a kid. I was a kid without cell phone privileges when the Nokia was a thing. And yeah.
I remember those.
I was watching my parents as grown adults go through the, Motorola Flip to the BlackBerry to the first versions of the iPhone to the Androids, now back to that kind of thing. So I was with them, watching them go through all of that and learning it behind them. And I've found that the best way for me to like explain to people when you're looking at like getting a Mac versus getting an actual like Android or a PC or something is like, are you looking for something when it comes to a cell phone? Are you looking for something that is more phone with like easy to use or easily like comprehensible steps? Or are you looking for something that you need to be more basis of like a computer? Because in all reality, Android took an actual computer and just made it into a smaller version. So if you're used to using Windows on a daily basis, you're going to understand an Android a little bit easier.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I miss my Android. I got an iPhone mainly just because my other one broke, and I was like, well, they have a deal, so we're switching to iPhone for now.
And I'm just going to say that Android had thumbprint technology before Apple did.
Yeah, I don't mind having an iPhone just because of like the accessibility of like accessories being in the store, but I miss like having a stylus and being able to like draw and I don't know, do everything on my computer on my phone.
Yeah. One of the first phones ever, like smartphones I ever had was an Android. I think it was like an S4 or something. And it had thumbprint technology where you just slid your thumb over you could either slide or hold. Yes. And it was amazing. That was before the lock. It was on the side. So like they had the lock button on the side, but the thumbprint technology was on the bottom of like the home.
Now they got like the face recognition and I'm just like, that's crazy. I was like expecting not to recognize me like without my glasses, or like it'll recognize me like at the most awful angle ever, and I'm just like, how? That's not me.
My iPhone is horrible about that. So like I'll have my phone, like I'll be laying in bed with half my face smushed on my pillow, and it's like sitting up at a weird counter angle from my face, and it'll recognize, but if it's below my chin it won't recognize, and I'm like, what is how do you recognize the top side but not I guess it's the forehead?
Maybe it doesn't make sense to me, honestly. I don't know.
No, not at all. So tell me about the first published book that you did versus like how much do you think you've grown since then?
Oh, wow, like a lot. So the first book I actually had published on was I would say like a young adult. It was a coming of age, like racing romance. And that one was the one that I finished in 3 weeks. I had like written it, and honestly, I just went through and made sure there was nothing that Word told me that I spelt wrong, and then I published it. And honestly, I don't remember what I did for the cover, but it was some free cover that I got off some app, and I changed a few things and then published it. And that one was, I think, only 200 pages. So it was like a baby book for me. And then I think I published, I don't know, I think I have like 11 books out now. So I've published quite a few in between. But if I were to compare One More Race to my most recent one, which is Hometown Roots, that one was my biggest book that I've ever written, and that one was like 360, I think. It's just so different because I actually planned Hometown Roots out, and I definitely don't do that with any of my books, but I feel like now that I'm getting into more like series, I have to do that because then I'm just going to be like referencing characters from the first or second book and not know, you know what I mean? I already have to do that with the first series I'm finishing up this year, and I'm just like, I'm gonna have to reread the first two because I don't remember like everything, and I don't want to create like plot holes or like the ages are wrong or I don't know, something like that. But if I were to like put them side by side, I definitely feel like they were probably written by different people. I mean, technically they were, I guess, because I mean, 2022 to now, there's like not a long time, but to me it is. And
yeah, a lot can happen.
Yeah. And like that was a COVID book technically. I was just bored and wanted to try it. So I was like, let's do it. And then Hometown Roots was like, no, I need a small town romance. Like, let's get to it.
Yeah. I read your holiday book ones.
The short story ones.
Yes, they were freaking cute.
I know.
Oh my gosh, I geeked out. I read them so fast. Let me tell you what. So of course, they're on my Kindle. And I knew after I read the first one, I was like, all right, we're just going to buy the rest of them. So I went through and bought all of them. And I literally like start to finish the rest of them in a few hours.
Yeah.
Like was just flying through them.
I know. After I finished the last one, I was like, I need more of these characters. So that's why I wrote Bookish Kind of Love, because it follows the same characters. And I was like, they needed their own novel. And then I was like, well, these side characters are kind of speaking to me. So this is just going to be a series. And then they're like, well, how many books? I was like, 4. And they're like, what? 4 books? And I was like, yeah, I just can't stop. I don't ever want to be done with the series. It's hard.
No.
I'm like, how do you say
and
goodbye?
The characters are so, yeah. I actually read a book not long after I read yours, and it was called Nevermore Bookstore. And it gave me the same like small town vibes, kind of, cozy bookstore with this like edgy feel. It was that, and I was like, how do I keep falling up into these these cute little towns? I was like dying in the background. I'm like trying not to cry.
Sometimes we just need that though. Like we want that in real life, so we're just gonna read it and immerse ourselves in the book instead.
Oh, for sure. And like you said, I have so many books in here that I'm probably never going to be able to finish. I'm exactly the same way. My husband is not a fan.
Yeah. I don't know. When there's deals, you just gotta jump on them. I mean, they're cheaper, so you might as well.
Well, and in my defense, at least half of these were gifts.
Well, there you go.
It doesn't count.
Exactly.
My mother-in-law actually she always asks us what we want for Christmas really early. She's the kind, like, right after she finishes Christmas, she's already looking for new things.
That's smart, though.
And mainly just because, like, that means she doesn't have to save over the year to get it. If she's able, like, if she has extra money, when taxes come in April, March area, she can go ahead and start picking up a couple things like, oh, this would be good for their stocking, or this is something they asked me for last year that I didn't get, that kind of thing. That way she's not spending, a couple $1,000s right at Christmas time. She's spending it over the course of the year, and she's not feeling like she's draining her bank account, at the very end of the year. Which it is smart, but it's really annoying because we'll be in March and she's asking us like, okay, what do you want for Christmas this year? And I'm like, I don't know. It's springtime. It's my anniversary. I'm not thinking about Christmas. Like, I don't know where I'm going to be in 9 months. Like, but anyways, it's the end of June and it's the third or fourth time that she's asked us, what do you guys want for Christmas? And I was like, you know what? I have an extra bookcase on my Amazon wish list. I have one of these trees behind me.
I want to get one of those so bad.
So I have one of the skinny trees and it's got, I think, like 5 or 6 layers.
Oh, that's tall.
Yeah, it's pretty tall. It's probably about 5 foot tall. But there's a chunkier one on Amazon. And she was like, you guys have like $200 as because we typically do about a limit. So we know what kind of ideas to send her, that kind of thing. Well, the chunkier one on Amazon is within that limit. And so I sent her, it's not quite the same height. I think it's 4 foot tall, but it's wider. So it's got
you'll be able to fit more
and the inside. Yeah. So like instead of it having just one V, it's got like 2 or 3 at its width. And I sent it to her and she was like, I was really expecting you to send me another. And I was like, well, I wasn't going to send you another bookshelf because she got me the original tree a couple of years ago. And I was like, because I have 2 really big, like 6+ foot shelves from Walmart that I have put together. Plus I have a 9 cube shelf and a 4 cube shelf and a rolling cart. Now, not all of it is full, but it's almost full. And I was like, I feel like, my husband's name is Zach. I said, I feel like if I were to have sent you that, Zach would have been mad. And she was like, well, who cares? It's your Christmas. And I was like, all right. So I was thinking about it and I was like, do I really need to send her this or do I send her something else? I just debated it for a couple hours. We had left their house. We came home and I was like, are you going to be upset because it's one of those, like, he knows if the shelf's empty, I'm going to end up getting more books. He's like, you're going to fill it, which means then you're going to go, okay, I need another shelf again. And he was like, this is like an addiction thing. And I was like, well, yeah, that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
He said, his thing is, I don't necessarily have a problem with you having another one, but it's one of those, like, at some point you've got to read what you have on your shelves or they're just sitting there for no purpose.
Yeah.
And he was like, I get if you've already read them and you don't want to let them go, but the ones you haven't read yet, you don't know if you like them, if you want to keep them. So they're just sitting there taking up space.
Yeah.
All right, fair. I get it. I don't have, he's going to get upset if this collection of books stems outside of the bedroom that I'm in. So that's why I asked him, I was like, are you going to be upset if she does get me another bookshelf? And he was like, no. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I sent it to her and I was like, please, Mom. Please, it's pretty.
I know, my mother-in-law is the same way. She'll ask us, and usually she does gift cards, and like she'll do something nice, like, oh, I'll take the kids and you guys go out to dinner. And I was like, nope, just a Barnes & Noble gift card or something is nice. And she goes, yeah, okay, I got you. And I was like,
something I can get away from him for a couple hours.
Yeah, I mean,
that's me.
She still gives us like the dinner one, and she's like, well, this is for you for afterwards. And I was like, yeah, because we're going to Barnes & Noble after anyways, so. But she did that for all my kids last year. So they each had like $25 and then she gave me like $75. So we just went to Barnes & Noble and filled up like 2 of like the little hand cart things. And then they were like, oh, well, maybe I don't want that. I want this. And my husband just looked at me and was like, do you see what you started? And I was like, I feel like reading is a healthy addiction. Thank you very much. I mean, granted, my son got like Legos and stuff, but I was like, whatever, it's fine. I mean, Legos are cool too. But yeah, my daughter has 2 tall bookcases. They're not like the same width as like the black one you have in the back because I have the same one, but they're completely filled with chapter books. She's 9, so like she's slowly like venturing out and wants to read like bigger books. And I'm like, that's good though. Like reading is so much fun. But she definitely has more that she hasn't read than she has. So I think she gets that from me. Whoops-a-daisy. I mean, I don't know. I don't really make them get rid of their books. They have so many that they've had since they were born. And I know I keep saying, like, we got to go through your books so we can get new ones. Because they do get books for Christmas. That's, like, one of the presents that is, like, not required, but, like, on the list. Like, you should get something to read. You should get, like, pajamas or a snack. Like, I don't know, just, like, the normal gifts that we do every year. So the pile just gets bigger and bigger. And I'm just like, I don't know, we're running out of space. Well, I guess we're just going to have to buy another shelf. I don't know. I'm just, like, really bad with going through my books. It's really bad. Last year, we bought a camper and we lived in it for 6 months. And I had to downsize on my books, and I couldn't do it. I was, like, crying going through my books, and I was like, okay, maybe I do have a problem. But, like, I did thrift a lot, so I was like, oh, this is a good find. Like, I spent 99 cents on this book, and if you go to the store, it's like $16, $18. Why would I get rid of that? Because then I have to pay full price. And my husband's like, but you haven't read it. And I was like, that doesn't matter.
No,
they just sat in boxes for a little bit, but then he was like, all right, I'm gonna buy you shelves. And then he bought me shelves to hang in the camper, and I filled them all the way up, and I still had so many more, and it just filled our bed. So I was like, well, our bedroom's just gonna be cluttered with books. And honestly, I loved it. I liked waking up being surrounded by books, but he did not whatsoever. He was like, you need to fix this. But we don't live in the camper anymore, so now I get to have more books, which is, I guess, nice.
Oh, good. Yes. Yeah. Whenever we moved in here, because we moved into this house 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. It was January 22. January 22, so 2.5, almost 2.5 years ago. And all I had was enough to fill up that one tree shelf. And then I got sucked into the world of Facebook groups and Bookstagram. And so I ended up, his thing is like, he's like, you probably have close to 400 books sitting on those shelves. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And your point is? And he's like, how many do you have on your Kindle? And I'm like, let's not talk about the Kindle.
Yeah, the Kindle doesn't count.
So then he's like, you probably have another, 200 on your Amazon wish list? And I was like,
no, more.
Maybe. There's probably more. There will always be more. Yeah, there will always be more. So I've had to, like, some of the original books that I got were not my cup of tea. I just wanted something extra to read because I was not in a position to be buying books when we moved into this home. So I picked up some, I'm not a murder mystery thriller girly. It's not me. I can and I will. On occasion, there are some that will catch my interest. The only one that's had my interest here recently is the Scandinavian Investigator series. The first book is called Angel Maker by Morgan Green, I think.
Okay. And I haven't heard of that book.
There are quite a few of them in that series, but I say that to say, like, I found Greg Iles' Not Just Burning, and it sounded interesting. So I picked it up. That was the first one I bought, but before that, from my mother, I got Sue Grafton has the Alphabet Murder. And it's like A is for alibi, B is for burglar, C is for corpse, D is for deadbeat, that kind of thing. And it goes through the entire alphabet.
Cool.
Well, I only have A through D, but I got those from my mother because she had those. And anyways, I have those sitting on my shelf, and I never read them. And I'm at to the point where I'm like, I don't know if I need to text my mother and ask her if she wants them back.
Yeah.
Or if these are going to be like books that I can just like give away, take to the donate, like, because she uses Prime reading, not Kindle reading, but Prime reading.
Yeah.
Prime reading is similar. If you pay for Prime, you get so many free books, not just first reads, but Prime has its own library of books that you can choose from outside of Kindle Unlimited. Yeah. And they download to the Kindle app just like KU does. But yeah, she uses that instead of buying physical books unless she's borrowing a physical book from me. And on occasion I have it's hardly ever anything in here that she wants to read, because I read a lot of fantasy, romance, dark romance. She's a thriller, murder mystery, that kind of girly. So a lot of the things that I have, she's not interested in. But on occasion, there will be one that I like. That's the only time she ever has one that is physical. But I'm at the point where, all that to say, I'm at the point where I don't know if I should be giving back these books I got from her, or if I should be trying to read them.
I don't know. Try them. Maybe you'll like them. But it's hard, though, because, if you're not in the mood for it, then you just kind of, don't get into it, and then it really doesn't work for you at all. That happens to me all the time. That's why I read, 6 books at a time.
Same. Well, and the other half of that is, if I start a series, I started the Knock 'Em Out series by Lucy Score.
Oh, I haven't read that yet. That's been on my TBR forever.
I read the first one in a good amount of time.
Aren't they big? Thick?
They're pretty thick. Gosh. So I read The Things We Never Got Over pretty quickly. And then I picked up The Things We Hide from the Light, and I got a couple chapters in, maybe 100 pages, and just I hit a slump because I was it's not pulling me in fast enough. I knew going in that kind of where the story was leading based on how the last one ended, and where the overall there's a small suspense, almost thriller vibe in the plot. It's a very small subspot. I mean, very small, but I could tell kind of where it was going, and that's just because I pick up on those things pretty quickly. But I was trying to get into the second one and couldn't. It took me about a month to finally get into it, and I finished the last. Let me see how many pages are in this book. $574 pages, okay?
Wow.
I finished the last 400 something. I was where's the mark? There's a little mark in here from my... So 574 pages. The little mark in my book right here is from it sitting at page 114 for over a month. And I finished the last 400 and something pages in 2 days.
Wow. That's
not even a full 2 days. Not even a full 2 days. It was 36 hours.
See, in between that's the work thing, though. If you're into it, then you're gonna just keep reading it. That's how you know you're actually like that story. That's how I was with all of Sarah J. Maas's books, except for A Court of Thorns and Roses. That took me a while because that was slow. But afterwards, I was the ACOTAR series was done in 2 weeks. Not even. I don't feel like. And then Throne of Glass took me a while because after the first one, I just didn't want to read it, and I read.
What order did you read them in?
Assassin's Blade first, and I was it already was spoiled for me because I knew the characters, I knew what was going to happen, and then I was not realizing how long I had with these characters, and I was are you serious? I thought I was going to have more, and then I read afterwards that some people waited and read that in the middle, but then I was well, I'm kind of glad that I did read it that way, because before I did try to start with Throne of Glass, and I was just lost, and I was I need more background. I'm the type of person that needs to know about them before I jump in to their adventures and stuff. So reading Assassin's Blade first was nice. And then I think it took me 2 months to read the newest Crescent City book. I don't know why. I just was not invested in it. And I was like, now I'm sad because I was like super excited for this book, and I think I said it like 60% for like a good 3 weeks. And I was like, why is this happening to me?
I have a stack of books on my desk that I'm looking at, and my problem is that when I got bored with the things we hide from the light, I started picking up other books and trying to get myself to read them.
Mm-hmm.
So I started them and then stopped them, and then managed to pick up things we hide from the light and finish it. So now I've got 4 books sitting on the corner of my desk over there. One is the things we never got, or the things we left behind, because it's the last in that series. And I was like, I just need to finish the series and get it out of the way. So when I finished that book last night, I picked up things we never got over, or things we left behind. Jesus Christ. And I put it on top of that stack. And I was like, okay, this makes book number 4. We're going to finish this one first, and then we're going to finish the rest in this stack. The problem is the rest in that stack is like the second book. 2 of them are the second book in their own series. So like 2 separate series. And one of them, I don't have anything past that second book. So one of those books is the second book in From Blood and Ash.
I need to read that. I've heard nothing but good stuff from that series.
The first one is so good. Oh my God.
I'm so scared. I need to just
So it's a large series.
Yeah.
It's a large series, and the paperbacks are not cheap. They're like $26 a piece.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, because, I mean, they're thick babies, too. So,
yeah, that's true.
So there's that one. And then whenever I was on my way back from Readers Take Denver in April, I started with the Messina crime family from Lillian Harris. And I read the first one on the flight home and then never picked up the other 3. So the second one is one of the books in that stack. Luckily, I have the other 3. I have the third and the fourth on my shelf, because when I went to see her in Readers Take Denver, I was like, I'm getting the entire series. So I have those, but it's like, I know if I go to read that second book, I'm going to have to read the third and the fourth, which then means the other book that's sitting there on the corner of my desk, that is the Mind F series, I'm not going to get to it for a few months.
You have individuals of those. Oh, I want them
No, I have
bad. You have the big chunk?
I have the big chunk.
You got to just put that first. I'm sorry. That is so good. That's one of my favorite books ever.
So, like, now you see my dilemma, because I'm like, I want to finish. Like, I started the Mind F, and I got a few pages in, and I was like, oh, this is good.
It's so
and then I got distracted I think I had to do some chores or something around the house. So I put it down and I left it in this room, and I didn't take it with me. And then I saw the other one, the things we hide from the light. I saw it sitting on my nightstand in the living room, and I was like, oh, dang, I gotta finish that one. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna force myself to start it. And that's when I got picked up a couple days ago. And now I'm like, I have others that I need to finish, because the second book in the From Blood and Ash, I got like 300 pages in before I was like, I don't have the third book. Yeah, I don't have the third book. I was like, there's no way I can finish this if I don't have the third book. And then me, I'm like, and if I get the third book, I'm going to start reading the third book. And then that means I have to get the fourth book, and everything else on my shelf is just going to wait. So now I'm in this like spiral panic of, what do I do?
Yeah, like, what do I need to do? Do I finish a series? Do I just jump into another one? I literally will not buy, I don't know, if I see a series, I have to buy all of it. I think the only one that I've actually done where I've only bought the first book was the Shatter Me series, and I only have book 1, and I haven't even read it yet. So I just can't, because what if I do like it? Then what? I have to wait the next day to go to the store? I don't know. I don't want to do that.
I found the first 2 from the From Blood and Ash. The 2 that I have are in paperback, and I got them secondhand in a Facebook buy and sell group, because somebody was doing a From Blood and Ash buddy read for the very first book. And it was my friend Tessa. She did the first ever episode with us here. And Tessa was like really talking it up. She was like, the banter is amazing. Like, I feel like it's better than the Bat Boys. And It is. It is
Oh,
so much better. The banter is more bantery. Like there is really more of this I love you but I hate you, like I want to be with you but I can't, and it's just that budding of like, the moral dilemmas and what you believe was never really what it appeared to be, and all of these layers, and it's just so good. And I did not realize how big the series was, but every time I go into a bookstore, they never have the paperback copies.
I only ever see them in hardcover. I don't think I've ever even seen a paperback for that series, like ever.
Yeah.
Maybe Amazon, but never in person. But I mean, fantasy, I feel like they always do with a hardcover. I don't know if it's just easier because it's thicker, but it's usually more expensive. So I don't know. But they're usually traditionally published, so maybe it's cheaper for like that publishing company to do it hardcover. I don't know.
Well, I feel like I'm going to say it, and I really hope nobody comes for me for this, but I feel like that's the money grab of the traditionally published. Like, not necessarily the author themselves, but the company, because it is more expensive to buy the hardback. And if you produce the hardback first, people who want that next book in the series are going to buy the hardback regardless. And if you're someone like me, where you don't want both hardback and paperback mixed in your series, you're going to end up buying the rest of them of one or the other.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, because usually they release the hardcover first, and I feel like there's a lot more paperback people than there are hardcover, unless you're like really hardcore, like want special editions, because usually they are hardcovers, and then they obviously just buy all of them. But I don't think I'd ever release just a hardcover of my books. Like I said, it's so much more expensive to do it that way. And obviously, like, we do get a discount purchasing our books because we're the author, but like, not much. We still have to pay printing cost, and depending on how big your book is, if it's a big one, like, it's going to cost a lot of money. Like, I think I did release one hardcover, and that was it. But that was just because it's a special edition, and it had like colored pages in it and sprayed edges and all that. But I'm not going to release that in like a bunch of different editions. It's just going to be hardcover, and that's it. So I think it depends on the book, probably. I don't like having mixed match. I do have a lot of them, though, unfortunately, but eventually I'll fill in the gaps.
I'm looking at these Chloe Gong, Foul Lady Fortune and Foul Heart Huntsman. I have one paperback and one hardback, and then the little Last Violent Call, the novella, is a paperback, and that paperback is not the same size of the paperback of the full.
I don't like that.
But the hardbacks. But Chloe Gong posted a picture on her Instagram of the hardbacks of all of those three, and they're all the same size.
I wonder why they do that. It might be like the way that the book gets cut, though, because they are supposed to be like a standard size, like 5.5, 8.5, or like I don't know what, 6x9. I don't know. I usually just do 5.5, 8.5. That's like my
so
sweet spot.
Irritating.
I would never. I don't know. That is. I like them to be uniform. I couldn't.
That's just like, okay, let me show you these I've got. Lorelei James makes a cowboy romance. Ooh. This is the mass market paperback, okay? It's about the size of my hand. Why is the new mass market paperback bigger?
It's
the same author by the same publishing company. Oh, it's so irritating. I'm like, did I just accidentally get a large print copy? And no, I didn't. It's small.
What?
I was livid because I got it from Amazon.
See, I wonder if it was like a third party kind of thing through Amazon. Maybe like they try to do it themselves.
I feel like I've noticed
a lot more people doing that, and it's awful. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand, like, when they do that, they're kind of messing with somebody's career, because if Amazon does find out that somebody, like, took your book and is trying to sell it on their own, they could take all your books off Amazon, and then you just have nothing. I didn't know that, and I found a few of my books on, like, other websites, and I'm just like, I didn't put those there. How did they get there? And then I'm thinking like, well, I did have a pretty big art team at the beginning of like my writing career. So that means one of them that I sent it to put it on one of those websites. So like that kind of stinks. Why would somebody do that? So now like I kind of refined like my ARC team, and it's only people that obviously like I know, I trust, because there's authors out there that say, oh, I send out 500 ARCs and it's just like a list, and no, I don't get all the reviews back. And I'm just like, well, why wouldn't you go through it and actually get people who want to read your book? Like, I don't know. I know a lot of people are like, I want to be an ARC reader. How do I get on there? Like, I don't have a big following. I don't really look at following when it comes to my ARC readers. It's just, are you going to review it? Like, am I your demographic for the genres that you like? Like, I don't want somebody who only reads horror, obviously, to read my romance. I don't know. I think it's different for everybody, but I didn't know a lot when I first started. So it's nice to actually, like, talk to other authors and be like, what do you do? Do you use beta readers, ARC readers? Like, what do you use to send those out? I definitely think I'll probably experiment a little bit more when I start writing more, just to see what would be easier. Because now that I have a lot more going on, I've noticed that like it's just a lot of work to do it by yourself. There's so much to keep up on, like especially if you have like a Patreon, your own website. Like I just started my own podcast, and it's just to talk about like how to get into self-publishing. But like you have to be on a tight schedule for like a lot of those things. And I don't think people understand that. So I'm just like, it's a lot of work, but it is fun if you like chaos like me. So I don't know.
And that's the thing. It was like, especially when you're getting into something like this and like writing, like you have to make sure that you have dedicated time to actually going through and doing the little bitty things that no one really gets to see, like editing.
Yep.
Because you would think that like, even for this podcast, like we're not video yet. I don't know that I'll ever be video, just because it is a pain to try to match up video with what you're saying. But going back and editing, like especially if there's background noise, and like this is not one audio file. There is my audio file, and then there is your audio file. And when I edit, I have to make sure they line up to where like everything that I'm saying and your response, or everything you're saying and my response lines up. And then like if I've got something going on in the background because I took a drink of water or because I moved in my chair, I have to edit out those little squeaky pieces so that we can actually hear what you're saying, all of that. And then it's like, all right, for right now, I'm only a few months into my podcast, so I don't have an official like intro with background music and all of those things. Even though I've picked those out, I'm just not to the point of meshing those files and putting them in the front and then making an outro. So like those things come at a cost as well, because I have to remember that like, certain seasons, when I get ready to do those things, I'm going to have to go back into all of my season 1 episodes and republish them for people to listen to if I choose to do so, or if I'm just going to leave it like it is and be bare bones, which is cool. I mean, no one's, if anybody really has a problem with that, they can just move on to another podcast, because I don't care. This is for me and my friends and the authors that I love. And it is just going to be like that. Even if it's new to me authors, like I'm just trying to be a small fish in a big pond and make a little bit of a difference, help some people out. It's just like that. So, and even then, like half of my guests are other readers, and we just get on here and talk.
Yep.
Like we just hang out. We just talk about things. Like I love to go through Sarah J. Maas. I love to go through Fourth Wing. I haven't read Iron Flame yet. I already know. I don't want to know. I
have both of them sitting on my shelf. I bought them for my birthday, and I haven't even read them. I'm scared. I was like, I can't. I need to prepare, because I didn't read a book for like months after I finished Throne of Glass, and I have noticed that like every time I read something that's fantasy, I compare it to Throne of Glass. So I was like, I need to stop. I need to separate Sarah J. Maas books from literally every single other book that I read, because if not, I'm just going to keep comparing them, and I cannot do that.
Well, Sarah J. Maas likes to traumatize us.
So I'm scared to fall in love with the first love interest ever.
when people interview Rebecca Yarros, they post those interview responses, and one of they post them on the internet so everybody else can see them. One of the things that I saw not too long ago was somebody saying to Rebecca Yarros, there's a theory going around that one of the main characters, like where they are now, is not actually how they end up, and that the real enemies to lover is one of the main characters and one of the side characters that she doesn't like, that she used to love as a child. And Rebecca's response was, "Who hurt you?" Like, and then the other part of that is everyone else from Rebecca's romance side and not her fantasy side was like, she's known for not having happily ever afters. Like, she is not someone who is used to writing. Like, she's not that kind of person. And, you know, there is a lot of pieces of the puzzle in this fantasy story that hints at that's what's going to happen. Because like at the top of each chapter, there's like a little I don't know what to call it. It's like a
Okay.
So there's this little information thing going on at the top.
Like, yeah, little breadcrumbs.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a quote, but sometimes it's a quote from their codex, their book of rules. Sometimes it's a quote from somebody who said something that's written somewhere. Sometimes, you know, that kind of thing. So it just little extra pieces of the puzzle. Mm-hmm. Well, if you pay attention to the very, very, very beginning of the book, you've got, so you immediately open it, and if you're looking at the hardcover, on the hardcover side, and the very first page is the entire map, right? So then you flip over, and it's got a blank page, and then comments, and then more comments on the next page over. The actual title page, where it's showing the book is beginning here. So then you've got more from Yarros and her acknowledgement page as far as like the ISBNs and all of those things.
Yeah.
Her dedication. And then the first, next to the map of the War College, the first little text that is her first puzzle piece says, the following text has been faithfully transcribed from Navarian into the modern language by Jacina Neilwart, curator of the Scribe Quadrant at Basgaith War College. All events are true and names have been preserved to honor the courage of those fallen. May their souls be condemned to Melek, which is their god of death. So this entire time, everybody's like, is this just a, like, recounting? Yeah. Or, you know, like, how many of them died? Do all of them die? Is this just like an overall, like, may their souls be condemned to Melek, so that those who have passed and, like, the main characters are okay? You know, what does this mean the entire time? And somebody has asked her, and she's just like, you'll figure it out later. And I'm like, Rebecca. So yeah, and it's like, now I'm going to pull up the second one because I need to know if the second one has anything like this. Yeah, that same text.
Oh my god.
At the beginning of the book, after, like, right before the first chapter.
Didn't she say how many books there's going to be for this series yet, or no?
5.
It's 5, okay. Oh, goodness.
5 from what I heard. So, yeah.
That's scary.
So now I'm like, how many of them die? And, like, is this the statement that Jacina made whenever she was translating them to honor those that did die and not necessarily saying that everyone dies? You know, because somebody has to live in order to give Jacina
the story.
The information, in order to transcribe it correctly.
And the fact that they said, like, they changed names, obviously, so, like, you don't really know who is who, I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, they could have a certain name in that story, and then at the end, you'd be like, okay, this is the person who told it. Then it's like, well, who is that? Unless they specifically say, this is who it was in the story telling me this. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot you could go, like, different directions with that. So she's smart to do that. And to keep everybody guessing, like, that makes you want to keep reading to see what happens. It kind of reminds me a little bit of, like, a found footage kind of movie, but in a book.
So it says, all events are true and names have been preserved to honor the courage of those fallen. So do we feel like they actually changed the names?
Or would they be the same? To honor them.
Yeah, or did they keep the names so that...
I think you're right with that one. Preserve would mean like they're the same. Oh,
because the idea of... Basically, the idea of sending someone to Malek was that they are finally in peace. So, like, when they die, they have nothing keeping them here.
Yeah, like here.
They can actually move on. So in that case, you would want to keep their name so as to make sure that you're not dishonoring them since they've passed.
That makes sense. Oh, that is so smart on her part.
But I still have not read the second one. I read the first one. And let me just tell you what, the dragons are sassy.
I know. I wanted a good dragon romance, like a fantasy romance. And I was like, well, there wasn't really that many dragons in, like, ACOTAR. I mean, they kind of were a little bit like the wyverns, is that how you say it, maybe? But in Throne of Glass. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, that's about as close as I'm going to get. So I was like, I need a nice dragon fantasy. And then, like, I was reading into the Witcher series, and I'm about halfway through that. But that one is super hard to get into because, like, the writing style is different. And I was like, I need something nice. So then I bought Fourth Wing, and I was like, all right, we're going to read this. And I had it on my TBR for, like, I think last year. And I was really ambitious because I was like, I'm going to finish Throne of Glass, and I'm going to jump right into Fourth Wing. And I was like, okay, that didn't happen. And now it's just sitting on my bookcase.
Yeah.
I'll get to it eventually.
See, I pre-ordered, honestly, I have Onyx Storm, the third book, pre-ordered, but I pre-ordered the one. Yes, why would I not?
I'm scared to pre-order. I just go to the store like that day.
And I can't risk not getting one. I cannot risk it. No, like, I've had it here the entire time, and like, I have 2 copies of it, and I still haven't read it. Like, that stack over there is more important to me.
Yeah, it's like things you need to finish on your to-do list.
Yeah, and I think it's probably because I know that story is still in progress. Like, she's still writing it. Yeah. And the other portion of that also has to do with, like, it's been spoiled for me. Like, see, I know. Yeah. Like, I know how it's going to go. Like, I don't know all the pieces of the puzzle from the beginning to the end, but I know how the end is of this book, at least. Mm-hmm. Which, no shock, there's another cliffhanger. I mean, it's the third book. It is what it is. I mean, the second book, but it was just one of those, like, now that I've gotten here, I don't know that I want to go ahead and read it, just because the next one doesn't come out until January. Mm-hmm. Towards the end of January at that, so there's enough of me to be like, I don't like you, Rebecca. But at the same time, I'm also like, I have the entire completed Throne of Glass right there that I need to start. Not to mention the hundreds of others that are in here that I need to read.
You haven't read Throne of Glass yet?
No.
That was going to be like the last one that I read. Actually, it was, because I did finish Crescent City before, like, the third one came out. I saved Throne of Glass last. I don't know if we were supposed to. That one came out first, I think, but it is a good series.
So I started with A Court of Thorns and Roses, mm-hmm. And I knew that I was supposed to do Crescent Cities last, and I had a friend go, I really want to read Crescent Cities. It sounds interesting, and I'm like, Crescent Cities has the most world building out of everything that Sarah has written, because it was the most recent thing that she has written. So obviously she's evolved. And Throne of Glass is a very large and daunting series, so most people recommend you start with A Court of Thorns and Roses because you get a feel for the world without feeling like you're overwhelmed. And it's probably one of her most notorious just because of the bad boys. Like I mean, and it's not even a completed series.
I know. I'm kind of scared though for like the next books because I don't know if it's just because I felt like Crescent City 3 didn't like live up to what I wanted. So I'm nervous that like the next ACOTAR book's not going to. But then I gotta think like so many other people loved Crescent City 3, and I think for me it's just I hyped it up too much. And for me, the side characters were more interesting than the main characters, and I feel like that's not how it's supposed to be. But then when you're in a series, like if you're going to veer it off in like other directions with characters, then it's going to be putting a spotlight on them a little bit more than the main characters. But I just feel like I needed to be invested in the main storyline still, and I don't know, I wasn't. Maybe it was just because like the banter wasn't there for me, or it was more like arguing. I don't know. I'm picky sometimes, I guess. That's probably the problem.
Well, and the way that she's made her, just from reading ACOTAR alone, the way that she made her characters banter there, you would expect something similar considering this is supposed to be same universe, different worlds kind of situation. So, I mean, obviously you're not going to be able to please everyone when you write, especially when you're Sarah or Rebecca or someone like that, and you're writing to the masses. I'm pretty sure that not everybody liked every single Harry Potter book that came out, but it is what it is.
I still have to reread those. I read those when I was a kid, and I don't remember any of them. So I was like, we watched the movies
honestly,
a million times.
I don't even know how many of them there are, and
I think like 7 or 8.
Even if I was interested, I think the Zodiac Academy is probably more my style.
I have the first one. I got it for like free for my Kindle. They were having a deal, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get it. And then that was going to be my Z because I do the alphabet every single year. And I just was nervous because everyone was like, it's a really like big series, but you're going to love it. But you have to start with this book and then you got to go from here to there. And I was like, slow down. Like that's a lot. And they're big, but they're like, it's so much information, but it's such a good series. And I was like, well, I get a little nervous with series because I don't want to lose interest like halfway through and then have it unfinished. I always want to finish series. Like, I don't know if it's just, I don't know. I can't leave it in the middle because then I feel like I didn't get all the information I need for all of the characters. I need all of it. So even if like I have a book and I haven't touched it in a month, I can't DNF. I think I only did that like one time. And I do plan on going back and rereading it. And that was A Little Life. And that one was just super duper slow for me. I don't know if I just couldn't get into it. I got into like 200 pages, I think. And a lot of people did say it did pick up after that, so I probably should have just kept reading, but I need to be like drawn in at the beginning, and if I'm not, then I just know it's just going to be super duper slow, and that's why like I don't really read a lot of slow burns unless there's something at the beginning that's like, okay, well, why did this happen? I need to keep reading to figure it out. And that's why I didn't think I was going to be good writing a slow burn, but it's kind of fun to like drag people along a little bit. So I was like, we're going to do that anyways. So I don't know.
I think my favorites are the medium burns.
Definitely.
I've got an author that I really love. Her name is Blake Black. Ooh. And she's got like 3 different duets, and she is my medium burn go-to.
Yeah. I'm going to have to check out the books then.
My favorite is, I think it's her first, and it's Burning Bridges duet. I think it's called Burning Bridges duet. I can only think of the name of her last one. her last ones are like Whispering Ocean and something like that. It's got like, I can see the cover. I can't, the name is escaping me now that I'm bringing it up, but I love Blake. She's amazing. All of them are reverse harem.
Perfection.
White shoes.
Perfect. That's my go-to. I can't.
Everyone gets a piece of the pie by the end of the first book.
Sign me up. Sign me up. I am so down for that.
But it also, she also doesn't like gloss over like hard real life things. So like
that's good.
The very first duet that I read, the Burning Bridges, the girl is a dancer and she had a bum knee because her ex was like a complete psycho and offed her family in front of her.
Oh my
and tried to off her. Yeah. And so she's like running from him and runs into her five dudes, the twins, 4 dudes and a guy best friend. So
5. I'm reading a book and there's 4 and I thought that was a lot.
The fifth one isn't actually romantically involved, but it's a set of twins and then two other dudes. And yes, there is a twin sandwich.
That's the best kind of sandwich. Oh my goodness, I can't.
The 4 of them are all really close, and she lives, her guy best friend, she actually lives in the part next door to him.
Okay.
So they get close, but not like romantically close. It's platonic. But he ends up in a lot of the art character drawings that she does with the entire group. So yeah. Ooh. It's good. It's so good.
I'm gonna have to look that up because I'm super duper curious now. I love books like that. I don't know why. I'm just like the more the merrier. It's nice.
Yes. Okay, so we were talking about dragons.
Yes.
We're talking about dragons, and now we're talking about reverse harem. Let me just.
I have never heard of that book.
This is The Sacrifice by Emily Shore. And if you like, obviously we like fantasy, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. And we like reverse harem. Mm-hmm. Yep. And we like dark romance. Mm-hmm. Yep. And they had a baby.
That's perfection.
And, okay. So like Fourth Wing is riding dragons, but this is like riding dragons in a different way. And there's a dragon, there's a fae, there's a fallen angel, and there is a vampire.
Okay,
the dragon and the fae are a couple. The dragon and the fae are a couple. The vampire and the fallen angel are a couple, and then they're all a group.
I'm trying to picture this in my head. I'm very curious now how this works.
Each book is the girl with not just one of them. She interacts with all of them, but the main portion of the story is one girl, one guy. Okay. But they all work together. Like they all have moments together. Everyone gets a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. But said dragon has not one, but 2 appendages.
Perfection. Love it. Yes. 2 is perfection.
And she does get a sample.
A couple times. A sample. I want the whole entree.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Let me see if I can find the. I was in the author's group at one point, so I got to, and she is part of the Kindle Vella group, so she does all of her books on Vella before she actually goes and publishes them through KDP. Mm-hmm. And if you're a regular voter on her Vella, she'll send you the not safe for work art.
That's
in your DMs every once in a while. And so now I must show you. I don't know if this is the right. I think this is the right one.
I'm dead. That's so good. Oh my Lanta.
So their other one is she has another one that I really like. It's the Death and Destruction. I think it's a trilogy. And that's about angels and Lucifer. The girl's a half angel. It's really interesting because like your soul, they describe your soul as if it's like a halo in your chest.
Okay.
So like you can feel when your soul fractures or breaks or like piece of it come off. And so it's so interesting because the girl has to go through bride trials in order to be Lucifer's bride. And she's going through these trials actually in the intention of trying to off him because she's an angel working for upstairs and he's like the ultimate calling for him during the trials. And it just so happens that her mentor, when she was not in hell, is the guy who basically raised her, but he's her mate, I think. If I remember correctly.
Oh.
In this weird triangle because the guy she fell for and her mate are like mortal enemies.
That's perfect though. Oh my gosh.
So good.
That sounds super duper good.
Dark fantasy is just
I haven't really dived into like dark romance yet, and I'm all for it. I think the only one I really read was the Mine F series, and then I've read Black Sheep by Bryn Weaver. That was super duper good. I loved that book. And then everybody is getting into what was it? Butcher and Blackbird. I think is how you say it. Yeah. Well, I just saw that it's getting turned into a movie, so I was like, oh, that's super exciting. And I was like, I want to start that series so bad because she already obviously announced like the third book for it, and I haven't read the first one. And everyone was talking about like how she makes food not appetizing anymore. So I was like, okay. What was it? Lauren, how do you say her last name?
Beale,
yeah. Her and Bryn and there's just so many. I'm just like, how do you do that? Like, how do you write that scene and not think like, okay, that's fine. I'm just going to ruin that for my readers, but they'll love it. I was like, oh goodness. And like, I eat the food that they talk about. So I'm just like, I'm scared to read it because what if I don't want to eat those foods anymore? But this seems to eat it up. Okay.
For the most part, after reading Lauren Beale's Captured,
I need that.
Because that's the one.
With Mayo.
That's the one. Yes, the Mayo. Okay. After reading it, the first couple weeks, I was very aware. Like, we would go to the store and we actually, like, literally right after I finished it, the following Friday, my husband and I went to the store and we needed mayo for the house. And I was like, you have to go get it. And I just walked away. And I was like, I will tell you when we get home, not in the store. Like, I'll just tell you later. So we finally got to the car and he was like, all right, tell me. And so I told him and he was like, that is disgusting. Why did you read that? And I was like, because it was interesting and I didn't know it was going there. But then I read it and it was kind of too late and I was there and I was like, huh?
Oh my god.
Trying not to throw up. And
I was like, oh, okay. Just like think about it and you're like, how? That had to have not tasted like mayonnaise. I don't understand. I'm thinking about it in real life as it's bad.
But after those first couple weeks, like, I don't think about it as much, except on occasion. And then on occasion, I'll make a joke to my husband and he's just like, you're disgusting. And we move on. It's not like, it doesn't sit with me all the time. Now, it was a very disgusting thing to read. It was nasty. And knowing some of the other things that she has written, that she's described, I am not surprised in the least because her husband apparently encourages her to write more disgusting things.
They're shockers.
But
I don't know. I think you definitely need to prepare for those scenes. But sometimes you don't even know they're in the books. Then you get to them and you're like, what the heck am I reading? But then it's just part of the story. So you just gotta go and do it.
Oh, 100%. It's just like a full send. You kind of have to. And then afterwards, like you're trying to come back from it and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something else. And look at that. We're almost out of time.
Oh, goodness. See? Mine just gets away.
I know. Didn't need my backup questions. No way. I think we're just talkers.
Yeah. I mean, that's not always a bad thing.
No, not at all. Especially not when it comes to books.
Nope. I wish I was talkers at my book signings. I'm just too shy. In person, I guess.
If I was closer, I would come.
I know. But I'm trying to branch out. I did a lot in New York, and then I have one in Pennsylvania in September. That's like the furthest I've gone so far, so we will see. I'm still doing bigger events.
I'm in Texas.
I almost went to one in Texas. No, Arizona I was, which isn't so far. But those events are super duper pricey.
Yeah.
I have family in Texas, well, on my husband's side. So I was like, what should the next big event be next year? And then I was looking at all of them, and they're like all booked already. And I was like, what? And then ones for like 2026 are already booked. And I was like, but I didn't even do one for 25 yet. So what are we doing? But I don't know. There's so many, and a lot more people, like smaller groups, are getting together and making more like intimate, like smaller author groups. And I was like, I think I want to stick with those ones for now before I do like a huge event. Mainly just because I don't really know what I'm getting myself into. So September is like a trial for me, just to see how I am with like a convention kind of setting. Because all the other ones are just book signings at like indie bookstores or Barnes and Nobles. So those ones are obviously different. I mean, sometimes there's other authors there, but usually it's just me at a little tiny table for people to come up to me.
That sounds like fun.
It is.
Tell us where we can find you. For all of my new friends.
The easiest way to find anything out about me is my website, and it's simple. It's just my name. So AlyciaCarosella.com, and I link everything to that. So all my events, my book releases, you can get my books from there. And I just recently started spraying my books, so that has been fun. I'm dabbling with it. I want to do like designs and make them pretty, and right now I'm just doing colors. But once I get a little more savvy with my Cricut, I'll be making like stencils, and I'll get to do that.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, it will be.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I had a great time speaking with you.
Me too. It was fun.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll get to talk soon again.
Of course.